I spoke last night about this thing called the Great Reset. I mentioned the World Economic Forum, where its founder, Klaus Schwab, made it clear in 2020 that, and I quote, "The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine and reset our world." Note that word, reset. "All aspects of our societies and economies must be revamped, from education to social contracts and working conditions," unquote. Now, is there anyone amongst us who doesn't believe this is happening already? The worry is it's happening in the classrooms and the universities, and these people will be voting at future elections. Their minds have been reset. I mentioned the first-year university student told to write an assignment on the impact of climate change on gender. Now, remember this Klaus Schwab, the founder, says, and remember this World Economic Forum has all sorts of billionaires and politicians flying in on private jets, and they bang on about global emissions and income inequality because they're as rich as all hell, and African dictators screaming about climate change and the need for immediate compensation from the West. Yes, it's a big money grab, but we know that it's just a transfer of wealth, you see. But this mob, billionaires, politicians, hangers-on, endorse this stuff. All aspects of our societies and economies must be revamped. And as Professor Judith Sloan wrote of the media, quote, "They churn out puerile pieces about the wonderful reform, reset initiatives being discussed by the hand-picked elites headed by Klaus Schwab." Well, that is being churned out right now, changing society. Well, according to what we're being told now, you and I don't own this country. We have to first be welcomed by Indigenous Australians. Isn't this the biggest change we've seen in the last 20 years? Everywhere you turn, everywhere you go, you have to be welcomed. In other words, you really don't belong. This place is owned by someone else. As the historian Keith Windschuttler said, this ritual is now virtually inescapable. From the opening of state and federal parliaments to writers' festivals, art exhibitions, academic conferences, school assemblies, indeed, anywhere those in the public sector gather, unquote. Well, the World Economic Forum is committed to changing all aspects of our societies and economies. Well, Lydia Thorpe, the Green Senator from Victoria, hates the Australian flag because it had connotations of invasion and dispossession. She wants to question, quote, "the illegitimate occupation of our country," and for people to know, quote, whose land they're on, and that the first people, quote, never ceded sovereignty. The historian Keith Windschuttler said correctly, quote, "2 decades ago, this ritual was unknown. Welcome to country." He said, quote, "It was introduced without public debate, let alone public support, and its authors have never been named or their purposes justified. This has been foisted on a mystified public as though it had the sanction of deep Indigenous tradition," unquote. So the land we live on isn't actually ours, and we should be grateful that the traditional landowners allow us to generate wealth and a lifestyle from which all Australians benefit, including Indigenous Australians. Benefit, all right. The taxpayer provides more than $30 billion a year, $30,000 million, which goes somewhere to Indigenous Australians, no one knows where, to, quote, close the gap, unquote.